Good evening, everyone. My name is Elizabeth, the Education Coordinator for Marlene's Market and Deli. Tonight's special guest that we have with us, which is always an honor, we have Julia Craven. She is the Enzymedica Educator, and she is talking on the topic of Take Your Enzymes, Unlocking the Potential of Enzymes. Thank you so much, Julia.
Thank you for having me. These are always my favorite to do. We have so much fun together. And so I'm going to get started. If people want to put questions in the chat, they certainly may. Elizabeth will help me to moderate that. And this is going to be very conversational tonight. We're going to talk about enzymes and enzyme myths and some of the things that you can do for your digestive health. Again, my name is Julia Craven, and I'm the VP of Education and Innovation for Enzymedica. I started working in this industry in 1985. So it was my first job in high school, was at a health food store. And I have been at it since then. I started with Enzymedica in 2007, and I've had various roles with the company, but I finally get to have my dream job, which is being in education. So my big specialty obviously is going to be gut health, but I really love gut health and the gut-brain axis, the microbiome axis throughout the body, traditional Chinese medicine. I'm a specialist in food intolerances and sensitivities. I also know my homeopathy, French medical aromatherapy. I'm a yoga practitioner and a breathwork practitioner. So like so many of us that have been around for a long time, we just learn a lot of things along the way. But I'm very grateful that my focus now gets to be on digestion. So, top question, can enzymes really help so many people? We have between 30 to 40% of Americans have digestive issues, and actually 60% of women have digestive issues. And that looks like gas, bloating, distension, occasional heartburn, constipation, diarrhea, food intolerances, all of those things. I call them the tip of the iceberg digestive issues. Those are the digestive issues that we see and maybe call us to have that call to action to do something about our digestion. But often there's actually something else going on lower in the GI. So yes, digestive enzymes can really help so many people. And there are lots of great digestive remedies. But why is it that so many people are having these issues and they seem to get older? They seem to get worse as we age. So there might be a gap in our enzyme production, which could also lead to all of those problems that I mentioned earlier. So the first one is age. As we age, we produce less and less of our own digestive enzymes. As we're young, most of us have plenty of digestive enzymes. We really don't need a lot of digestive help. Most of us when we're younger, unless there's a food intolerance, that would be the exception. But as we get older, we're producing less of our own enzymes, meaning our own digestion not only slows down, but it's harder for us to eat some of the foods that we really enjoy. So I always say, remember when you could eat anything? Well, you know what? I do. And I tried to do that last night. I had a really nice quality, pizza. I shared it with a friend and I didn't take my glutenese enzymes last night and I'm feeling it today. It never used to be like that. The other thing that can impact digestive health is medications. Many impact stomach and intestinal sources of enzymes, or they impact motility, and they're making our peristalsis, or that motility of how food moves through the digestive system, slower. So medications can really have an impact on digestive health and enzyme secretion. We all know stress. Stress, when we are stressed out, our bodies are in fight or flight. We never settle into a nervous system calm. We don't often do that because even if we're really used to, say, the rush to go pick up the kids from school, the traffic jam, the almost being late to work in the morning, the oh my gosh, what am I going to have for dinner? Our bodies still view it as stress. And so it's really important that we find ways to de-stress, and especially if we can find ways to de-stress around food, taking longer to eat, eating in community, chewing our food. Those are all things that we can do to send a signal that our digestion is time to go. But how many of us eat in our car? I'm saying here. Environmental toxins also can have a very detrimental effect on our digestive system, specifically enzymes that are made in the small intestine. Some environmental toxins can be really rough on small intestinal tissue, and those enzymes are called brush border enzymes. And then food. Our bodies aren't built for the kinds of foods that we eat or even the volume of foods that we eat. So probably most people who are on this call are making really great food choices, or they're on that path and they're discovering what diet is best for them. But our bodies may not even be built to eat as much food as we think that we need to eat. It is, this is where the intermittent fasting is coming from for many people, eating caloric restriction, optimal nutrition, the Crohn diet. So when you look at all of these things, age, medications, environmental toxins, stress, food, none of us are getting out of this. We are each of us going to have one of these things, if not more of them happening. And all of these things impact our own digestive enzyme production. So I say yes, enzymes really can help so many people. And then remember, it's not just about what is happening in your stomach and your GI. I love this quote. Your gut is not Las Vegas. What happens in Las Vegas does not stay in Las Vegas. And this is due to the vagus nerve. And we look at this image on the right, we can see all these tiny little lines. That's a nerve system called the vagus nerve. And it is the longest and largest nerve system in our body. You can see how much of that is collected around the intestines. That nervous system locks in directly to our central nervous system and sends signals to our brain. We also have a lot of vagal nerve bundles around our heart and our lungs, as well as at the base of our skull. And so you can see that these nerves, this vagus nerve, it's actually two directions. They call it a bidirectional highway of nerve transmissions. But actually, most of the nerve transmissions that are happening from the gut up. What does that tell us? That what's happening in our gut does not stay in our gut. That the signaling that happens in our gut affects what is going on in other parts of our bodies. We've all felt it. We've all been nervous and we felt this clenching in our gut. And then our heart is racing. And then all of a sudden we can't think. These are really simple examples of the gut-brain connection. And this is why digestive enzymes, again, they're not just about gas and bloating and those typical things. This is about the connection and the communication that happens not just with our gut and our brain, but also with our microbiome and the signaling that happens throughout our body. This is why taking care of our digestive health is so important. And then we look at all these reasons why digestive enzymes decline throughout life. You can see that there's a pretty important correlation there, and that digestive enzymes can really help us in so many ways. So one of the questions or the statements that I often receive is, I get plenty of enzymes. I eat a lot of raw foods. And it's true. Raw foods, as well as fermented foods, do have more digestive enzymes than a cooked food. But here's the deal. The minute a fruit or a vegetable is picked, its enzyme activity starts to decline. So if you're able to get a good amount of fresh raw foods locally that hasn't been trucked across the country or more across the world, then awesome. Absolutely great. You are getting the best kinds of digestive enzymes from an external source, which is raw foods. But remember, it has to be really fresh. Another thing that people don't think about is that transitioning to the raw food diet can actually be kind of challenging on your digestive system. It takes a while for your digestive system to adjust to that. And enzymes, supplemental digestive enzymes, can actually help in that process. And there's a whole reason behind it. It has to do with the enzymes that are produced naturally in your microbiome. When you switch to a raw foods diet, you're switching what kinds of enzymes need to be made. And so we have lots of products. One of them is called VeggieGest, but any digestive enzyme is going to help with that transition. Again, I'm I'm the person that's like, let's de-stress. Let's chew our food. Let's calm the nervous system so our digestive capacity can go up. Let's find those fresh raw foods locally. But we know that we live sometimes in a complicated world and we can only do so many of these things so much of the time. I call digestive enzymes a bridge. They can help us to get from the place where we are towards the place where we want to be with our health. And then we can continue to work towards those healthy objectives. So thinking about this enzyme gap, one of the most popular products, and not just within the Enzymedica line, but in the entire category, is this product called Digest Gold. Digest Gold has been the #1 selling digestive enzyme in the US natural channel for over 20 years. The #1 product. It's never lost that space. And it's not because we are a discount company. It's not because we have ever had a celebrity spokesperson. Oprah has never held up a bottle of Digest Gold. We've never bought an NFL commercial. We're actually an independent company who started in 1998, and we are still independently owned. The reason that this is so popular is because the product works, because people try it once and they come back over and over and over again. And it has to do with the purity of our product, no fillers in our products, as well as really high quality. So no gluten, no dairy, none of those other ingredients, vegan if they don't have any probiotics in them, and kosher. On the back of every bottle, you can see a big contains no listing there to see how clean they are. And then the other piece is TheraBlend, and that's our blending process. We're going to talk about why that's so important, how you blend enzymes as we go through our talk today. So another belief about digestive enzymes is that I only need to take digestive enzymes when I'm having a really special or large meal, i.e., I'm going to kind of be naughty today. And so I'm going to take digestive enzymes just for that meal. So while that's really helpful, while digestive enzymes do work in that way, which is kind of an allopathic model, sort of an over-the-counter model, that is not the best use of them. The best use of digestive enzymes is to take them regularly. And some people say, but I can't take a digestive enzyme 3 times a day. I'm just not going to do that. That's fine. Take them daily. Take them with your largest meals. It's more about taking them regularly and taking a well-formulated enzyme than it is about just trying to take the highest potency enzyme whenever you need it. You're going to get a much better effect when you are able to take digestive enzymes consistently with your largest meals. And the reason for that is you're getting better nutrient assimilation. So remember, you are not what you eat, you are what you digest and absorb. Okay, so if you are not able to fully break down your food, you're not able to liberate the nutrients from your food. So all those healthy, beautiful foods that you're buying at Marlene's Market, if your digestion is compromised, you may not be getting all of the nutrition out of them. Probably a lot of us on this call take a multivitamin or take a multi-nutrient blend, and that's fantastic, but we never ask ourselves, am I getting the most nutrition out of my food? Really, again, this is where digestive enzymes can really help you. And if we're not breaking down our food, then it makes it harder to eliminate our food. We've all heard those scary statistics about how much undigested food is sitting around in our GI. And again, if we're living a healthier lifestyle, we have less of that issue. But still, if your digestive enzyme capacity is compromised, you may not be able to break down foods as well. They collect. They can change the pH of the microbiome, which means compromised bacterial growth in the microbiome, and they can cause a lot of other problems like biofilms and things like that, which are really starting to create more of a pathogenic environment. So again, it's not just what you eat, assimilate, it's also what you're able to eliminate. And this is how the body is built. Enzymes work like the body is built. We are supposed to have enough of our own enzymes to take care of this all our own. But because of this modern lifestyle, many times we don't. And then the last thing that you're going to get from taking a digestive enzyme more regularly is spending less energy overall on digestion. There are lots of different estimates about how much you spend percentage-wise on digestion, but we know that it's about 25%. We know that certain foods take a lot simply to break down. We also know that it's not just about breaking down the food, it's about assimilating the food and eliminating the food. And so it takes a lot of energy to do digestion. What would happen if you could get a little bit of help with that every time you ate? You would feel a lot more energy in your life. And I always like to look at ancient healing traditions. So fasting is our first medicine. We see this very clearly when an animal doesn't feel well, they fast. We're learning all about intermittent fasting and longer fasting with autophagy all the time now. But fasting does one thing really well. It rests the digestive system. You're not spending so much energy on digestion. And usually after about day 2 or 3 of fasting, your energy levels just start to go absolutely through the roof. This is your body's own energy taking over, which can be utilized to help your body heal from various things. So if we look at this, better nutrient bioavailability, better elimination, a healthier microbiome. We know the microbiome is signaling not just the gut-brain connection, but the gut-heart axis, the gut-lung axis, and our immune system throughout our body, and much, much more. And then simply resting our digestive system a little bit more so we have more energy for life. This is a core concept to why digestive enzymes can be such a powerful and foundational part of your program. You'll also hear people, and maybe you've said yourself, I eat tons of fiber. I don't need digestive enzymes. So while fiber is really fundamental to health, and scary statistic, only 5% of people are actually getting enough fiber in their diets. One of the other things that happens is that while they may be getting enough fiber, they are deficient in the enzyme that helps to transform that fiber into a prebiotic fiber in their lower GI. So they have a lot of problems digesting that fiber. The other thing is that even if you are getting enough fiber, it doesn't mean that you're breaking down your other foods really well. It means that you're helping to sweep them out better, but it doesn't mean that you're breaking down, for instance, the protein from the meal that you're having for dinner. So say you're having a beautiful salmon dinner with some broccoli and asparagus. You may not be breaking down that salmon and getting the protein from it, the amino acids from it. You may not have enough cellulases, which are an enzyme that's actually created in our microbiome to break down the fiber from that beautiful, hopefully local, organic produce, that broccoli and those asparagus. You may not have enough lipase to help to break down, there's going to be butter in this meal probably, or just the fact that it's a really fatty fish. So fiber is no excuse for not needing or considering the need for a digestive enzyme. Fiber is wonderful, but it doesn't break down food. Only enzymes can help to break down food. Another one of my favorites is I take probiotics. I don't need enzymes. Same kind of idea. Probiotics, they're fantastic. They can do so much for us. But probiotics don't break down food. Probiotics don't help us to get more nutrient assimilation. So if somebody is really bloated or gassy after eating, that's a sign that they may not have enough digestive enzymes because the simple carbohydrates are starting to ferment very quickly. So while probiotics are fantastic, we love enzymes. They actually help to break things down. And again, going back to that stress reduction, soothing the nervous system, doing the lifestyle things that we do. Remember, we make a lot of enzymes actually in the salivary glands in our mouth. We make a lot of the amylase enzymes, which help to break down carbohydrates, but we also make some lipase enzymes, which help to break down fats. So This is what our body is using anyway. It is using enzymes to break down foods. So we have a complete solution should somebody need an enzyme plus a probiotic, which is a fantastic combination. And that's that Digest Gold plus probiotic. All of the benefits of the Digest Gold that we looked at earlier, really, really high potency blended enzymes that are going to work throughout your digestive system. And it has a shelf stable probiotic, namely a probiotic called DE111. And that DE111 is very shelf stable, so that's helpful, but it's also been proven to germinate within the gut within 3 hours of ingestion. And this is a DE111, by the way, is a Bacillus subtilis. It's not a lactobacillus. There are other lactobacillus probiotics in the formula, but the star of the show is the DE111. So one of the reasons we really like DE111 and that proven to germinate is that when you have probiotics which become microflora in our gut, as they go through their generational cycle, microflora give off, guess what? Enzymes, sacs of enzymes. They also give off some other kinds of micronutrients, specifically some of the B vitamins, which are really kind of hard to get. But probiotics give off enzymes and a lot of the amylase, the carbohydrate, and the fiber digesting enzymes. This is pretty cool because it's showing if the body is working properly, if we give it what it needs for a long enough period of time, the body, it's supposed to become a self-cleansing organism. We're supposed to have enough enzymes from all the way through our stomach, our salivary glands, our pancreas, our stomach, all of that, and even into the microbiome. I talk about the microbiome a lot because people don't think of enzymes in the microbiome, but it is absolutely true. This is a myth that's totally busted. Enzymes have nothing to do with the microbiome. And absolutely not true. Our microbiome are teeming with enzymes. Again, meant to be that self-cleansing machine in the microbiome. Enzymedica has an exclusive process called TheraBlend, and it means that the way that we blend enzymes means that it's going to work throughout the various pH ranges of the microbiome, okay? And only TheraBlend enzymes from Enzymedica, which by the way, all the major food groups, so protein, protease TheraBlend, carbohydrates, amylase TheraBlend, fats, lipase TheraBlend, and fiber, cellulase TheraBlend. Think about it as the 4 food groups. We have these super powered teams of enzymes that are working on the 4 food groups. No other company has done this. Enzymedica was the first. I've been with the company a long time. Many have tried to copy. They haven't been able to, and it's because of the relationships with enzyme fermenters that we have. And only TheraBlend has been proven to work in the microbiome. And we are doing the research for this now. We are the only ones doing this kind of research. A great example was what we found when we studied lipase TheraBlend in the microbiome. So lipase being the enzyme that helps to break down fats. What we found is a couple of things. One of which is when you are able to break down fats, you're able to release more butyrates from your food. Butyrates are actually the fuel for epithelial cells. So you're going to get better epithelial cell health the more butyrates you have. Butyrates are naturally occurring in dairy products, especially butter, some cheeses. That's where we would normally find butyrates, but they're in these fatty foods. Now remember, not enough enzymes, not breaking down these fatty foods, no butyrates. That's not even the most exciting part though. What's exciting is that what we saw was that in the presence of lipase, a bacteria, which is a keystone bacteria called Akkermansia muciniphila, we have a higher percentage of in the gut. This is one of our native bacteria that there are some new companies that are saying they're producing an Akkermansia, but we don't have the science yet as far as proving the stability, which is why Enzymedica hasn't done it yet. But Akkermansia should be in your gut. Higher amounts of Akkermansia usually mean a lower body fat percentage, as well as better insulin sensitivity. So Akkermansia is fundamental to blood sugar regulation and healthy metabolism. Again, this is like one enzyme and one bacteria. we are doing the research for all of the enzymes now. And we know they work in the microbiome. Again, so we're going to have that effect in the immune system. We're going to have the effect with that gut-brain connection through the enteric nervous system, the vagus nerve, through the central nervous system. A lot of our serotonin is actually made in our gut. And this is why serotonin is really important for signaling throughout the gut, but some of it does cross the blood-brain barrier and can be very, very important for our mental and cognitive health. Every day you look, there's a new study on the microbiome. Only TheraBlend has been proven to work in the microbiome. Pancreatic enzymes, they're super popular. They've actually been around a lot longer than the vegan source enzymes, the fermented vegan source enzymes. And so many naturopathic doctors prefer them because it's in the naturopathic original texts. The drawback with pancreatic enzymes, there's a few. The first one is supply. We don't know where these are coming from. They are literally pancreatic juices from cow, pig, and sheep. And I have looked the world over for sourcing information for these pancreatic enzymes. Like, can there be a clean source that's certified for these pancreatic enzymes? And I haven't yet been able to find them. So that's one thing, is the sourcing. Many believe that it's a byproduct of the meatpacking industry. But really, the other thing, they're just not as effective. Okay? Pancreatic enzymes can partially denature in stomach acid. So they hit stomach acid and they kind of start to come apart. And they just aren't as effective or as stable in stomach acid as many of the fermented enzymes that we can create in these huge fermentation tanks. So they just don't do the job quite as well. Quality companies will enteric coat a pancreatic enzyme because they know it's not stable in stomach acid. But the problem with that for digestion is that we want digestion happening in the stomach. It is super important that we're getting digestion happening in the stomach. So we don't want to stop it with enteric coating. The answer is using a vegan fermented enzyme like the ones that Enzymedica sells. And also potency per gram, activity per gram of product is far, far less in animal sourced enzymes than it is in the vegan fermented enzymes. Right along there with pancreatic enzymes, ox bile. There's a belief that ox bile is the best choice for people that don't have a gallbladder. So ox bile is just that. It is bile extract, and it's usually from cows. It's not an enzyme per se. It might have enzymes in it, but there's no measurement for it. These bile salts help to emulsify fats, but they don't actually break down the fats. They just help to emulsify them. So what works really, really well is lipase enzymes, because if we don't have a gallbladder, one of the things that is not held well to come out and secrete at the right time is lipases. And so why not just go directly for what needs to be broken down in order to get all of these wonderful things that healthy fats deliver to us: brain, heart, inflammation modulation, blood sugar health, eyes, skin, and even gut. Why not just use an enzyme for the job? I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of people over the years, and very, very often I give somebody the lipase enzymes, the Lipo Gold, to help them when they don't have a gallbladder. And every single time they say, oh my gosh, I can't even believe how much better I feel. And I didn't even know I didn't feel good because I felt this way for so long. Lipo Gold is really, really great. Also, if you're on a keto diet and you're just eating a lot of healthy fats, you might need more lipase than what you'd be able to get from one of the core digestive enzymes in our line. So every Lipo Gold capsule digests up to 20, or digests at least 22 grams of fat, but we're actually getting some new reads on that. It's actually quite a bit higher. So Lipo Gold is a really, really great one for people who love their healthy fats, perhaps a ketogenic diet. I know many people who are on carnivore diet don't believe in any supplementation, but sometimes it can be helpful, especially with fats. And for those individuals that don't have a gallbladder, it can be a game changer. And you can still take it with ox bile if you want to. It's a beautiful thing about enzymes. They really go so well with other things. There aren't digestive contraindications with digestive enzymes. So you can take enzymes with your other kinds of remedies. And if you think about it, it's only going to help your other kinds of remedies work better. Lipase being a great example. I mean, probably most of us on this call are taking omegas. We're cooking with healthy fats. We're not afraid of fat anymore, thank God. And if you have a problem digesting fat, then you're not getting the benefit. And this is my all-time favorite statement / question. If I take digestive enzymes, I am going to stop making my own. So digestive enzymes are simply providing you extra support. They are not replacing your own enzyme secretions. They are giving your body that extra support. The body can adjust to how many enzymes are needed by what meal has been consumed. So if we think about it, if we've had a very, very light meal, just a little bit, say it's breakfast, we're having a little bit of fruit and coconut yogurt, maybe a little splash of honey on there, our body doesn't need to create a lot of enzymes. If we're having a big dinner, we were at a conference and we went out and had all the foods, the heavy foods that we may not normally have, our body knows and secretes extra enzymes. So it's not a one and done for our bodies. When there are enough enzymes present, say if you're having that beautiful local raw smoothie juice, well, your body doesn't need to create a lot of enzymes. Supplemental digestive enzymes are really, really helpful for our bodies that maybe aren't creating enough enzymes. So I always like to mention this as well. Think about fasting. I'm going to go back to that. When we're fasting, there's no need for creation of enzymes. We're resting our digestive system. Does that mean that our bodies are not making our own enzymes when we begin eating again? It just means that we're resting our digestive system. It doesn't mean that our body decides to quit making enzymes. And it's the same when you're using enzyme supplementation. This is called the law of adaptive secretion. Your body secretes what it needs. If it can't keep up, which many of us can't because of modern lifestyle, age, food intolerances, then enzymes can come in and help with the job. And then don't forget, helping with the microbiome, helping with nutrient bioavailability. Now, one area where we may be missing enzymes is with food intolerances. So many things that we think of as just kind of normal issues can hide inside of a food intolerance. Bloating, irregularity, occasional heartburn, the combination of if you have brain fog and you notice that there's a food mood combination, it's true. There's a very strong connection there. Learning issues, heart palpitations for some people, achy joints, flushing, rashes. These are all symptoms of a food intolerance. And while we always want to get the food out of the diet, that's number one, there are enzymes that can help, especially when we're in that process of trying to figure out what is going on. Sometimes it takes a while to either do the food journaling and figure that out yourself or to diagnose. Enzymes have a place in a full range of food reactions. So if we're just talking about kind of a really mild reaction, I just get a little bit of gas and bloating. That just means you may not be making enough of that kind of enzyme to break down that food. Great, a digestive enzyme can help you to enjoy that food occasionally. And then there's what we call a digestive sensitivity. And that's more than an intolerance. And in a digestive sensitivity, very often what's happened is there's been some gut damage. And when we consume that food, it's signaling the immune system for a pro-inflammatory cascade. Or we may have leaky gut, whereby some of these proteins are actually leaking into our bloodstream and can do things like cross the blood-brain barrier, causing that brain fog, that depression, some of those other kinds of issues. And then when we're thinking about when we have an actual food allergy, so when we're talking about gluten, that is celiac, right? There's no cheating. There's no, oh, I'm going to sneak the food tonight. There's no, my gut is actually going to ever heal from this. With the sensitivity, you can heal your gut. and really, really make a lot of progress to being able to digest that food. Not so when we're talking about a food allergy. That's an immunological reaction. Enzymes are never going to fix that. Where enzymes can be helpful is if you are in a situation where you're unsure if you're going to have some cross-contamination. So basically, anytime you go out to eat, you can take enzymes prophylactically ahead of time. And we're speaking specifically about the glutenase, the gluten digesting enzymes. You can even take them after the fact if you have that feeling of, oh my God, I've been glutened. It happened. I thought I was safe here, but I have been glutened. You can take the enzymes after the fact. All that they're doing is they're helping to break down those offensive proteins, gluten and gliadin, so that your body can clear them more quickly. So that's for accidental cross-contamination. There's a place for enzymes in every part of the spectrum. And I'm the first person to say, if you have a reaction to food, get it out of your diet, you know? But it took me a couple years to actually figure out what's going on. And enzymes really helped me during that time. So the special enzyme that addresses gluten is an enzyme. It's a protein digesting enzyme called DPP4, dipeptidylpeptidase 4. And it is laser focused on gluten and gliadin. So we've got this super, super specialist protease that actually works in the pH of the small intestine that's breaking down gluten and gliadin. And then we also have amylase for carbohydrates to help to break down the delicious carbohydrates, which gluten is usually encased in, as well as glucoamylase. It's another kind of amylase. And then that protease TheraBlend, because again, that gluten and the gliadin is a protein, and we want to get all of the help that we can get to break down those proteins. And the protease TheraBlend, a lot of it is specifically working in the acid environment of the stomach so that it never even gets to the small intestine. So I just want to reiterate, we never suggest that this is a replacement for a gluten-free diet, most especially for somebody who is celiac, but it can really, really help with cross-contamination or as people are on their journey, as they're figuring out their food sensitivities. And digest spectrum is kind of your full spectrum digestive enzyme for food intolerances. So it has that DPP4 in it, just not as much. And I should have it. Oh, this is a 2-capsule dose. So what we just saw with glutenase is just a 1-capsule dose. This is a 2-capsule dose. So it's not as high in the DPP4. It's very high in lactase. It's got 1,000 units of lactase. To put that into perspective, Digest Gold only has 400 units of lactase. It also has a great protease TheraBlend, very high potency. Another common food intolerance is casein from milk and also soy. So we always want to make sure that we have the right proteases for the kinds of foods that people typically have a food intolerance to. And then xylanase sounds like some kind of alien enzyme. Xylanase is actually just from the carbohydrate digesting family, and they're really, really helpful for breaking down FODMAPs. So those of us who are interested in a FODMAP diet, and also phenols. So if people have flushing from berries, a racing heartbeat, they get the flushing with the red wine, green tea doesn't agree with them. All those high phenol foods, which are actually very, very healthy, some people can't metabolize them, and xylanase is really specifically quite helpful with that. Also for fructose, there's a rise in fructose intolerance, and xylanase is helpful for that. So when I get asked the question, which enzyme can I take? I have X fill in the blank, food intolerance. I'm like, digest spectrum. Because I've learned over the years, it really does cover most things. You can add in a glutenase on top of that if you want that extra protection and that extra support. But again, reminder that enzymes don't replace dietary intervention at all whatsoever. I actually, Elizabeth, I'd like to pause for questions here because we're going to pivot a little bit. Do we have any?
I do not see any questions at this time, but folks, feel free to ask some questions if you like.
Awesome. Okay.
We want this to be an interactive platform.
Yay. All right. So we've been talking about
Oh,
enzymes. Yes,
Um,
there you go.
yay! Digest spectrum. Michelle asked, I'm wondering, she's referring to the last product.
hmm
Oh, can you explain this?
So
Oh,
digest, go ahead. Digest spectrum is helpful if you have multiple food intolerances or if you're not quite sure. Let's see what the next part of this chat is. Is it
they were asking what brand is en
en
Enzymedica. Gosh, I could not say that for a second.
think enzyme medica, Enzymedica. So digest spectrum covers all of the major food intolerances: gluten and gliadin, soy, casein, phenols, FODMAPs, fructose. All of the major food intolerances are covered in digest spectrum. I do want to bring up, because I get this question quite often, there's an enzyme called DAO, and DAO is derived from pork. And Enzymedica doesn't use any of the animal sourced enzymes. It's our policy that we don't do that. What DAO breaks down is histamine. And many people are looking at a low histamine diet. So our philosophy is, why even produce the histamine? Why, if you are having a hard time breaking down those foods and they produce histamine, why not use enzymes to help to not have that histamine reaction? I mean, obviously, again, it's diet. Diet is first, but you can use the enzymes to help to not have the histamine reaction, and you can still use the DAO if you need more support. But the digest spectrum does not have that. It does not have the DAO. It is your multi-purpose, multi-food intolerance digestive enzyme. Does that help answer that question?
She said, thank you.
You bet.
And then we
So
have another question. How
okay.
long does it take for Digest Gold to help with gas and bloating after eating? That's a good one.
That's a good one. So here's the fun part, is that properly formulated digestive enzymes work on contact. They work immediately when they are in the right pH and in the right environment and they have the right substrate. So many people will feel a difference with their first meal, but what I do want to say is that if you've been eating the gas producing enzyme or the gas producing foods, and it may be all foods that are producing gas for a variety of reasons, then some of that food is still going to be down there and you still might have that gas production. The Digest Gold is going to help to break down the food with the meal that you took, and it may even do some additional work once it gets into the GI. So some people say with your next meal, I like to be a little bit more conservative with that and say, give it a couple of days. It really often does help. There's one little caveat to that, and it's that if there's been a less than ideal diet, the standard American diet that's been consumed for a long time, the Digest Gold may actually come in and break down that undigested material in your GI, and that can feel like a different kind of gas. But by and large, for most people, that does not happen. For most people, they're feeling a pretty big difference within a couple of days. I cannot tell you how often I've been in lectures, public spaces, trade shows, and I will literally have women come up and like take their shirts up and show me their bellies. And I'm like, wow. And they're like, look, it's so flat. It's never like this. I used to look pregnant all the time. And just love flashing their flat bellies, and it's because of the digest cold.
Well, see, that's a true testament in itself because they're like, hey, look.
Yeah, it really shocked me the first time it happened. I was like, what's going on? I've learned to recognize the signals now.
Right, you're like, okay, it's all good. Oh, and she also asked, so should I take one with each meal?
The greatest benefit you'll get is with each meal. I understand that compliance can be challenging if you're eating a few meals a day. If you're a grazer, eat them with your largest meal. If you're like me and I do intermittent fasting, and so I'm eating a medium-sized meal, early in the afternoon, and I'm eating a pretty nice sized dinner, then I'm taking it with those 2 meals. Eat them with your largest meals. And in the beginning, you can take more because it's going to help to regulate that, that gas and bloating and help to set up your microbiome better. You may not need to do 3 a day, like with your various meals forever. You might be able to get away with less. I find that very often is that people will start with a high amount of enzymes, and once their bodies start to adjust, they're taking less and less and less.
That's wonderful. Kind of seeding the gut garden.
Absolutely. And Deborah, it says that you're mostly vegan. Take a great probiotic. If you can find a probiotic that you like, and going back to what's happening in the microbiome. So in our microbiome, in our lower GI, our probiotics, our microflora is creating enzymes, and it's creating those fiber digesting enzymes and those carbohydrate digesting enzymes. If you don't have enough of those, you're not that those simple sugars are starting to ferment, and that's causing a lot of gas. So in addition to taking the Digest Gold, taking a great probiotic, and you probably already do that because it looks like you take fantastic care of yourself. I just wanted to say, like, there is a shift that will happen. And I see it so often with vegan individuals. All right. Thanks for the questions, Deborah. It's always a lot more fun. So we've been talking about digestion, and I'm going to pivot here for a minute because I love to talk about enzymes for things other than digestion. So when you're taking enzymes for digestion, you typically take them at the beginning of the meal. But guess what? If you forget, take them in the middle of the meal. If you forget, take them at the end of the meal. The enzyme is going to make contact with the food. It's just ideal at the beginning of the meal. I was at a conference a few weeks ago. I took my enzymes before the meal, and I was like, whoa, this food is really good, and I've eaten a lot of it. And I took another enzyme at the end of the meal just because I knew that it was foods I didn't normally eat, really rich foods. You can do that. The enzymes are going to work because they're TheraBlend. They're going to work throughout your digestive system. At some point, they will work. Just take them. That's the only rule. Just take them. So that's how you take a digestive enzyme. If you're taking an enzyme for something else, we call that systemic enzyme therapy. And that's so the enzymes can actually do other kinds of work besides digestion. Primarily, we're going to talk about how they can get into your bloodstream and help with normal cellular cleanup processes. So when we're taking enzymes between meals, the rule of thumb, 2 hours after a meal, an hour before a meal. If you're eating a light meal, you may not need to wait 2 hours. It's just empty stomach. That's the rule. So hopefully people can sense when an emptier stomach is happening. But rule of thumb is 2 hours after a meal, an hour before a meal. So what we're talking about is using proteases, the protein digesting enzymes, on an empty stomach so that they can go into the bloodstream. And for those of us that have become familiar with intermittent fasting or fasting in general, or we just are those that love to study, you may have heard the word autophagy. And autophagy is our body's own natural process for reusing dead, damaged cell parts, which are slowing cellular processes. And autophagy is helping to break down those pathogens within the cell that are causing problems. Autophagy is one of our main cellular cleansing systems in our bodies. And guess what? White blood cells are partially a part of this cleansing of our bloodstream. Now, what's so cool about white blood cells? There's a picture of it here on the right. You see that white blood cell? It looks like it has little arms, right? It's actually grabbing on to a little viral form there. It brings it into its body. It eats it, basically. And what do you think it uses to break it down? It uses enzymes. It's pretty cool because guess what? We can take enzymes and help to boost our own natural cellular processes for healthy cellular cleansing and detoxification, just like our own bodies work. It's pretty amazing. So what else stimulates autophagy? We can talk about the product and all of that, but we always want to talk about the lifestyle as well. What else stimulates autophagy? The fancy word for it is hormesis, Hormesis being the stress that makes you stronger. It's those temporary stressors that we have that we have had as a human race always. So we've had extremes of hot or cold. We didn't used to have heat and central air. We actually had to live through this for periods of time. Extremes of hot or cold actually stimulate our own autophagy. This is why the ice plunges to the saunas, stimulating our own autophagy, that temporary healthy stressor. Fasting, right? We eat a lot more than we used to. We used to have to either hunt for our food, forage our food, or grow our food. We had a much different relationship with food. We certainly didn't eat as much of it. We were a lot more happy to have it, and there might have been a lot of fasting. Fasting stimulates autophagy. And you have to get kind of past intermittent fasting. It's thought that more than 16 hours really stimulates autophagy. Calorie restriction actually also stimulates autophagy. So many times there's this, what's better, caloric restriction, optimal nutrition, or fasting? It's like, you know what, the one that you're going to do, that's the one that's better. It's all about getting the general calories down to stimulate autophagy. And then exercise, specifically exercise that makes you have a sweat, where you're working hard, you're getting really hot, sprinting, HIIT kind of workouts, things like that. All exercise is good exercise. To get pushed into that autophagy state, you need to have pretty rigorous exercise, even if it's just in spurts. I'm not a jogger. It's not happening in my life, but I will walk a block, jog a block, walk a block, jog a block. And my HIIT exercise is actually hot yoga. And so I'm getting really hot, getting that heat, and then I'm getting the exercise, which can be pretty intense, and then it calms down. You got to find what works for you. Some people are all about the cold showers in the morning and jumping into the ice baths. They're for it. And I haven't been able to get there yet. So I'm like, it's okay. I'll just get really hot. I'll do some sprinting. I'll do the things that work for me. I'll do some fasting. So autophagy is this normal, natural cellular cleansing process of our body. And guess what? It uses proteolytic digestive enzymes. Now, people say, I don't want to take a digestive enzyme and a systemic enzyme. I'm just going to take Digest Gold for everything. I'm going to take it with the meal. I'm going to take it between meals because I'm just going to use it for everything. You can do that. It's actually not as cost effective. You end up spending a lot more when you're taking just all Digest Gold than if you were to take Digest Gold plus this product, Enzyme Defense. So this is the product that is very high protease. One capsule is 150,000 units of protease. To put that into perspective, one Digest Gold is 80,000 units of protease. There's a lot of protease in here. And it also has another kind of protease called serrapeptase and another protease called mucilase, which actually helps to break down mucus. This is a great product also for immune season, because one of the things that white blood cells do is they find, we call them the dead, damaged, does not belong, the cells that are decaying, the cells that are pathogenic. Our white blood cells, think of them as the kind of indiscriminate cleanup crew. They go around and they find them, they engulf them, and they destroy them using enzymes. When we supply our body with more enzymes in the bloodstream, our white blood cell activity goes way, way up. Never to an unhealthy range. I've never ever seen that happen, but it goes way up so that our immune systems are working better. What I love about this is that it doesn't stimulate the immune system. So for individuals who are autoimmune, enzyme defense is a great immune helper, but it's doing so by cellular detoxification. It's doing this through autophagy. Now you can take your enzyme defense with your wonderful immune products that you love to take, your astragalus, your echinacea, your zinc, your D. Go ahead, enzymes work so great with other things. And you can take your enzyme defense with your cleansing products. If you're wanting to do some spring cleansing, adding enzyme defense is a great way. Think of it as a blood cleanser. I know it's kind of marketed as an immune product, but it really, really does support whole immune function by helping to break down those invaders that don't belong. So when people come back and they're like, enzymes, they're just for bloating and gas, maybe Little constipation. No, 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 my friends. We're getting more nutrition out of our food, from our food and from our supplements. We're able to break them down better. We have less digestive drag. We're just not spending so much energy on digestion, and we're supporting a healthy microbiome. Sometimes people come to my trainings and they're like, I don't agree with needing to take an enzyme every day. I feel like this is, having to add something all the time. The thing is, remember, we're trying to fill that enzyme gap. If we fill that gap, we maybe make some dietary changes. Maybe we make some lifestyle changes. We start to slow down our dinner routine. We start to try and de-stress. Maybe you don't need as many enzymes. Enzymes can be the bridge to help you to get from one place to another. And believe me, you will know when they are working because of how we formulate. And you'll know if you start to back off, you'll be like, oh, wow. Like me last night, I was like, oh, I can eat some gluten pizza. No, I can't. I'm feeling it today. And then enzymes, again, supporting that cellular health. Again, this is all due to the way that Enzymedica formulates, and we are a foundational item for health. And that's what I have today. I would love to spend time with questions. I can't believe that was an entire hour.
It flew by so quick.
It really did.
Well, when you're passionate about, you know, your knowledge and expertise and bringing this to the forefront to the community, it flies.
And it's just, I mean, everybody eats, right? It's not one of those things that only some people are doing, so only some people are going to have that problem. Everybody eats, and so we really have to make sure that that process is going well and it's going healthfully. And for all the reasons I outlined at the beginning of the presentation, for so many reasons that we can't help, for many people it's not. And I have worked in aisles for years and years and years in health food stores. And I meet people just like the folks at Marlene's Market that are doing everything right. They're eating the healthy diet, they are exercising, they're meditating, they are doing all the things right, and they still have an issue they can't quite solve. Adding a digestive enzyme in those circumstances, even if it's just for a short period of time, can really, really help to maybe correct what's going on in the microbiome or show them, hey, I actually wasn't getting all the nutrition out of my food. So they're not just for unhealthy people, There used to be this product, I think it is still on the market, called fast food enzymes. And I was like, oh my God, terrible name.
Oh gosh, no.
It's like really healthy people have issues with digestion as well. In fact, healthy whole foods are harder to digest than these kind of like pre-processed foods that have had so many of the nutrients and so much of the fiber stripped. And yet it's very confusing for people because it's like, wait a second, I'm doing everything right and I'm still having problems.
Which can be so frustrating, but
Mhm.
that's why you're here and Enzymedica are
Mhm.
on the forefront, making sure that everyone can assimilate their food
And the information.
and the information. Oh.
All right, we've achieved our directive today. We've gotten a snort laugh out of Elizabeth. So.
Oh, Bill said thanks.
You bet. And you know what? Go to the team at Marlene's. They are wonderful. They are knowledgeable. They know about enzymes, not just Enzymedica enzymes, all enzymes, and can really, really support you with a holistic approach.
Thank you. Thank you, Julia. We
You're
have
welcome.
any more questions, folks? Or we have our expert here? I always learn so much from your presentation, so thank you so much, Julia.
Yeah.
Don't be shy, folks.
Speaking of that person who was doing everything right, but still wasn't finding their way, that was me.
That was you.
That was me for many years. I didn't realize I had a food intolerance. And it wasn't until I started taking Enzymedica enzymes that I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better taking these. What would happen if I eliminated this food? And I started to learn about it. I thought I had a learning disability because I had such a severe neurological gluten reaction. So I was 30 years old. I'd been in the industry since I was 16. And I'm like, I do everything. And I could not figure it out. And I got a sample and life changed. And then I bothered them until they hired me.
That's the best. I love that so much. Oh, Deborah said,
Oh, and
um,
vitamins. Yeah. So they are being reformulated. The raw material supplier for those, we loved them, but they've been around for a long time and they actually got acquired by a much larger company. And when that happens, you want to look at quality standards. And so we are reformulating those products to meet with our product specifications. My heart's broken. Many people's hearts are broken. I love them, but I am on that formulation team and I can tell you that they're going to be really, really cool when they are back.
yay. Well, it'll be worth the wait.
It's a problem when you're a high quality company. You have to make tough decisions sometimes and say, it's not for us anymore.
Yep, exactly. And which proves the what y'all are bringing to the forefront of quality, and that you truly care about what your customers are absorbing.
I'm just typing in the chat here. It was glutenese and digest spectrum. But that's because I had pretty severe, it's called non-celiac gluten intolerance. So it wasn't celiac, and I was super bummed when I got tested and wasn't celiac. I was like, what the? It looks like celiac, feels like celiac, acts like celiac, and you're telling me I don't have celiac. And this was, early 2000s, and non-celiac gluten intolerance wasn't really in the conversation yet. But I was like, well, I feel better when I take the enzymes, which means I'm probably going to feel better if I get it out of my diet entirely. Let's give it a whirl. And it really, really shifted my diet. Now, when I take my enzymes, I can cheat a little bit. And that's great because I travel and I never know when I'm going to get cross-contamination. And so it really helps me to feel better as I'm traveling as well.
I love how you said earlier, oh no, I've been glutenized. Like,
People can feel it. I used to be able to feel it right away neurologically. It was a brain fog that came on fast and furious, and I could not concentrate on anything else.
oh man.
It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's odd how like it can affect different people differently, or it can change over time.
Yeah, my gluten intolerance mostly then shifted over to dairy intolerance like 3 or 4 years ago. I'm like, really?
Oh man.
Break here. But I've also learned like you just get the food out of your diet. That's what you do. You just don't question that. You're going to feel so much better. You'll be motivated to do it. But we know our friends and family, they're not going to do that. If anyone here has tried to get someone they love from eating so much cheese, you've probably gotten quite a reaction, which is like, kidding me? I would never do that. It's like, all right, it's your
Nope.
choice.
That's a lot of my family too, and they'll be like, "Wait, what are you sensitive to again?" And I'm like, oh, "Okay, gotta go through the gambit here." Like,
Yeah. Thank you, Deborah. I hope that you are able to come to the celebration too. Elizabeth just does such a beautiful job, always bringing the education and the information.
oh shucks. It's always a pleasure working with you, Julia. You are a true delight and just an inspiration. I mean, you had said this was your um fourth educational lecture today. I mean,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that's how passionate you are, which is amazing.
Well, people asking questions and getting better is what it's all about. It's like I did my job today. I hope someone feels better. It's pretty great.
Oh, well, thank you for all you do,
Thank
Julia.
you. Absolutely. Well, you do the heavy lifting. I just show up.
I love to. It's It's wonderful being able to connect with all the community here and work with amazing presenters such like yourself that are making a difference. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.